Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adult Chair. It's fall, and I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Michelle Chalfant. Hello, Michelle.
Hi, Pete.
Is it cooling off where you are?
It was over the weekend, but now it's in the upper 80s again.
Oh, goodness. It's full on raining here.
Oh.
Full on. It's like a Mack truck just ran right into us in terms of this season. It was like overnight.
Oh, my gosh.
And now it is fall. Boom. Fall.
Oh, we had that a week ago. It was in the 40s at night, but now it's warm again. It's warm again.
Well, I love the spirit of transition, and it works so well this morning after our hiatus over the summer to come back and talk to you. Today, we've got a great conversation. How do I find my adult chair in the middle of an emotional storm? I think it's going to be a great conversation. Before we get started, head over to theadultchair.com, learn more about the show, subscribe for free, sign up for the mailing list, or find us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. And don't forget to join us, join in the conversation on Facebook or Twitter. You can find all the links to that over at theadultchair.com. And please, last but not least, call us, 931-463-3813, and get your voice and your ideas on the show. We would love to hear from you. Okay. Emotional storm. Stress, struggle, strife, other terrible words that begin with S. And you are going to help me get through them.
What I realize is that people learn the chairs really well. They get the ideas, they get the concepts of the chairs, and everybody mostly knows they're residing in the adolescent chair. And they said, "Okay, they always say, I get it. I need to live in my adult." And we can talk about what aspects of us are in the adult chair or when we're there. But what I find happens is when we get thrown emotionally, the application of how to get into the adult chair it's gone. Like people blank out and they don't remember, how do I get myself back in the adult chair?
Right. Confusion. It's confusion,
yeah.
Right. You get triggered and then you just black out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remembering when we're in the adolescent chair, we are in the ego, we're in the unconscious state. So we're reacting to everything. We're not able to think through things. So it's like we have to shake ourselves and wake up out of a dream.
Yes.
is what needs to happen because consciousness is in the adult chair. That's where we can think logically and in the moment and all of these things. So this is what I want to talk about. This is why I'm excited to talk about this today, because I even had an experience happen to me. I've had some other clients very, very recently in the last week have this happen, which is why we're doing this today. It really just keeps coming up for people. For me, just if I could share a quick little story, I was getting ready to leave on a trip last weekend. And I was rushing around, having to get everybody ready to go. And, I had to pack everything and I had things to do for my business, just a long list of things to do before I was running out the door. And one of the things I wanted to do was I had to water my basil plants. So, because I was not going to be home for 4 or 5 days. So I said, I had these 2 little pots of basil and I put them in the sink in my laundry room. And I put a nice little trickle of water and I wanted to, let it run just for a few minutes and then pull them out, just super soak them and leave them right in the sink. So anyway, I turned my water on and I ran and did a couple more things. And then I was looking for my son, who I thought was in the bathroom peeing. I'm like, why is he in there so long peeing? What is he doing? And I called him and then he came walking in from outside and I said, I thought you were in the bathroom. He goes, no. And I said, well, who's peeing? For like 5 minutes. And he's like, what are you talking about? And of course, guess what? I ran over to the laundry room and thank God, I walked into my kitchen next to the laundry room. I was ready to walk out the door and there is a flood from my basil.
From your basil plant. Oh my goodness. Because
I was rushing. And I, oh my God, did I do this? And did I do that? And I wasn't in my body. I wasn't balanced. I certainly wasn't centered. And I looked and the water is gushing over the sink, all over the floor, running down through the sink, into the cabinet. It was awful.
Oh my goodness.
So of course I start screaming. I'm like, ah! So that made me more stressed. What if everyone was in the car waiting for me.
Oh.
And I was doing one quick walkthrough and I thought I heard him peeing and I was waiting for him till he was done. Thank
And that
God.
was your thing is flooding over.
It's
Your basil plants are
flooding.
flooding up. That's
Right.
That's hysterical.
But what I realized was, so in that moment, after I got everything cleaned up, and I had to drive, my husband drove one car and I ended up driving the other car. I thought, I can't drive like this. I am so scattered. I'm overwhelmed. I'm so afraid I'm going to forget, all of these thoughts going through my mind. And that is when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so out of my body. I've got to get in my adult. And I really had that thought to myself. I'm like, I am not in my adult. I got to get back here. So that's one example. I'm going to tell you what I did, because I kind of created about 4 or 5 steps to getting back in. I just want to share one other example. So that was just with me being scattered. That's when we have a lot going on in our lives, when we're really feeling overwhelmed, and our to-do list is, it feels like it's 150 things long, and how we're going to get it all done in an hour is how I felt.
Yeah.
So that's one example. Then another example that just happened a couple of weeks ago with a client who had an issue with an in-law, which everyone can relate to this.
I think they're also a perennial favorite on this show. We've talked about in-laws before.
Absolutely. And anyway, so they had a little issue come up with one of her in-laws, and she felt like she was, misunderstood and judged and all of these things. And her husband, I had a couple come in for a couple session actually. And the husband was reporting to me what happened. And he said, I handled this. And he sounded like he came very much from his adult chair after this confrontation had happened. And then he's like, but I'm very upset with my wife because she was so stressed out, she blasted off a text without even thinking.
No.
So now he's all upset, and she's like, I was trying to help, and I didn't help, and da-da-da-da. And I said, okay, slow down, and that's what we do. We overreact very, very quickly when we think we've done something wrong. We try and fix it. And she goes, I just wanted to fix it. And I said, okay, what chair were you in? She's like, I know I was in my adolescent, but I couldn't find my adult. So things like that happen too. We get triggered. Like I had my list to do. So all of these things kind of lead to us living in that adolescent place. So how do we get over, and how do we slide one chair over into that adult?
Right.
Again, it sounds completely counterintuitive to do this, but what we want to do is slow down. Because what happens is we speed up, that mind goes faster and faster and faster. That's how we get those ruminating thoughts that go over and over and over, faster, faster, faster. If we could only do more or say the right thing, then I could fix everything. And when we start using the word in our mind, fix, if I could just fix this or get my list done, then we know that we are typically coming from that place, that ego-y adolescent place. So here's the first thing, and even what I said to myself in that moment of watching the flood after I cleaned up the flood in my laundry room.
Before the flood.
And again, the other thing I say is when the way that we move into our adult chairs, we need to change our state because we're in that unconscious state of mind. So, and Tony Robbins uses this all the time. It's all about changing your state. So what I do is I'll say to myself, okay, stop. Like I just out loud will say stop. And then I breathe. And it sounds silly, but when we're stressed, we're not breathing. And we do the shallow breathing and we hold our breath. So when we breathe from that belly, in fact, I have a video on my website, how to do a proper belly breath. Mm-hmm. Most people breathe incorrectly. Most people are breathing from their upper chest versus the belly. And when we just stop ourselves and intentionally take some slow belly breaths. So when we put our hand on our belly and we do an inhale, we want the breath to come out. So try it just for a moment, Pete. I want to see what happens to you when you take a deep breath. What happens?
All right. So I'm taking a deep breath.
Is your chest moving?
Mm-hmm.
No, your chest should not be moving.
Well, my chest and my abdomen are moving. Like I tend to, I'm a whole core breather.
So try and breathe just from your belly, pushing out your belly when you breathe.
Okay.
Take an inhale and push out your belly on the inhale, and then exhale, you suck it in.
Okay.
That's how we properly breathe. And most of us breathe from the chest area. Our breath moves up And we start breathing from there, from years and years of living stressed from the time we're really toddlers. Right. So we want to retrain ourselves to breathe. So when we breathe from the belly, it lowers the stress hormone cortisol. It improves our mood right away because, again, it's releasing serotonin and other endorphins. It does so many things. It improves our mental focus and concentration because it's bringing and increasing the blood into the prefrontal cortex of the brain. So that's what we want to have happen, because when we're stressed and triggered, we're in the fight or flight part of our brain. So just properly breathing activates that parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we want. So right there alone, that starts to slow everything down, and it brings us into a more calm and peaceful state. Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing we want to do, I call it we drop in. So this is a step of really bringing in that adult energy. And for me, the really healthy adult energy is the higher self of who we are brought into human form. So I see on the top of my head where the seventh chakra, the crown chakra would be, I open that up intentionally. And if you don't know what the chakras are, just imagine on the top of your head a crown and just open that part of your head up. And we just drop in this energy that sits right on top of our head. It's a beautiful white light, and we bring it down, slide it down through the spine, and let it rest at the base of the spine. When I do this with people all the time in my office, and they go, "Whoa, what just happened?" I'm like, yes. And everybody reports when I ask them after they've done this. Again, it takes 30 seconds to a minute to do this. First breathe, then we drop into the body, fully drop in, and I ask them to feel their feet. We want to make sure they're in their body and we're grounded. You always say to me, "Oh my God, I feel so I feel so complete. I feel really like everything just slowed way down, but I'm okay with it." Yes, that's your adult. Again, it's not to say that our adult doesn't need to move fast sometimes, but when we fully bring our energy into our bodies, everything does slow down and we gain a brand new perspective on our lives. So those are the first two steps. Okay. The next step is, which I know that we talked about before, is then we want to ask ourselves, what am I feeling? Because when I ask that question to clients, often they'll answer from their head, like, "Well, I felt like running away," or "I felt like I just wanted to fix." No, that's not a feeling. That's an action about a feeling. So I have them just sit. And by the way, if they do these first two steps, it's much easier to access our feelings. So we want to get into what the heck is going on with our inner child. We want to know what's going on. So in the case of my client, when she was so thrown by her in-law that had made some comments that were very judging, I said, what are you feeling? And she's like, "I'm so scared. I'm so scared."
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "Oh, there's the feeling."
Yeah.
That's the feeling. The feeling is not, "I want to fix it." That's the thought about the feeling. It's the thought that comes in to stop the feeling. So she said, "I just feel like so sad and I'm so scared." Yes. And then we talked about it, and I said, so then the next part, number 4, is then what's true? It's that, what am I feeling? And then what's true? And together, and even her husband helped. I said, so what do we know that's true about this in-law of yours? And what came out was that her in-law and her husband could vouch for this. It wasn't a judgment. It was just fact. And it's not a bad thing. But I said, it sounds like she's really controlling. And this is just the kind of mother that this girl is. And she's controlling with everybody and not just you and your family. And then, she said, yeah, that's really true. I said, okay, so we can't fix her. It's not about fixing her. It's about you getting really comfortable with your scared feeling and with your sad feeling. It's not bad. But we don't need to fix it. And when we learn to get comfortable with our feelings, we are able to sit in them and not activate that trigger to then run out and fix it.
You bring up something that I think is really interesting, which is how many of these experiences, when you drill down and talk about kind of what these experiences are, how many of them distill into some kind of fear.
Yes.
And so I'm curious, what is your experience in sort of helping people rationalize their own fear and move beyond that fear. Because I know for me, like it's like a flow chart. You start with whatever I'm experiencing, and it generally is going to come down to that one word, and it'll be fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of turning my children into monsters, fear of whatever it is. What I think is so interesting about this experience, about finding your grounded space, about being able to use these physical tools, sort of the physiological connection to the emotional experience, like belly breathing, like working with your own chakra, and being able to control this experience and find grounding, how well that works to move you through fear and how stress and anxiety all comes back to that one big word. How do people respond when they discover, when they first sort of open their eyes to the fact that, oh my God, I am in a state of fear?
What's interesting is the ego is based in fear. It just is. So we are going to go back to that feeling quite a bit. But you're right. It is a lot of fear, but it's also fear of feeling like I don't matter, feeling like I'm not worthy, feeling like I'm not lovable, that kind of thing. Yeah. It's all, I hear that all the time, and we all have all of those emotions inside of us. So what I have found for me and for others is it's helpful just to allow ourselves to feel those feelings and get used to those feelings. So whether it's fear or I don't matter or I'm not worthy, it's getting to know those feelings. And then again, this is doing the inner child work, where then we're just going to go in and sit in those feelings with our own inner child, and maybe giving them a hug or telling them that we love them, or whatever they actually need to hear.
When your clients wake up and realize, oh my goodness, this is all, I've been living in a fear state. Now I have, what new opportunities? How do I embrace the world when I sort of wake up and realize I've been in a state of constant, fear?
It is an awakening. There's no doubt about it. People go, oh my God, that's how I've been living my whole life. Yep. Now what?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we can't go back and change the past, but what are we going to do now moving forward? Again, this adult chair, it adds a voice. I often ask people, so what's your next voice? Because they go, well, blah, 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 blah is going to happen. And I go, okay, so what else might happen? Like, what's that next voice? But hold on, let's breathe first and let's drop in. Let's drop into the body. And now what does that next voice say? And they go, oh, it's so different. Yeah. And the fear is not there. Or we recognize the fear. See, in the adult, we become an observer of the fear instead of getting stuck in it. It's very different. When I'm in it, it's like I'm drowning and the life raft is right above my head and I can't see it. When I'm in my adult, it's like I'm watching myself drown. I go, oh, there's the life raft, and I can pull myself right up and out. It's a very different energy that we hold when we're sitting in that chair.
It's really a magical space.
It really is magical. Yeah. I see it all the time with people, and they go, oh, I'm learning it now. And I'm realizing there is another voice that comes in, but they have to look for it.
Yeah.
We have to have that voice that says, oh my gosh, I'm really overwhelmed. Hold on. Let me stop and breathe. And it's so empowering, Pete. It's just, I see it all the time, and I feel it even with myself. I'm like, wow, I looked to find my own power for so many years, and all of a sudden I haven't. It just comes from within, and talking to myself in a new way and being my biggest cheerleader. Oh,
it is. I love that magical transformation. And I think, we've been working on the sort of editorial kind of direction for for our next year. And I think so many of these topics really get back to embrace the fact that we have a choice. And that is what I hear when I hear you talk about these things, is that we're active participants in our own emotional well-being. And we have a choice in how we choose to experience life and express it. And we don't have to live in fear. We just don't have to.
Right. And we get stuck in that fear. It's like we're going down the drain and we, oh my God. Yeah. And that's where panic comes from.
Right.
Oh my God, this is never going to happen, or I'm never going to be able to. It's like that. And then the voice gets faster, faster, faster. It's so counterintuitive to sit and say, you need to slow down. When people are going, but I can't slow down. I got to make a choice right now about, slow down. You cannot make a choice from the place that you're in. That's your highest choice. You can make a choice, but let's make the highest choice for you in this moment. And let's get you centered first and then make the choice.
I have no patience, and this is me being triggered, I'm sure. But when I hear people say, I don't have time to slow down and do XYZ to improve the way I relate with the world, whether it's I have too much work to slow down and figure out what work I need to do. I get that, and I've experienced it, right? I've experienced it, and I see it in myself when it's happening. I have no patience with myself. If that is true, if I really don't have time to slow down and take stock, then really I'm sort of hopeless, right? There's no space, there's no oxygen in that direction.
Yes, and our options are narrow. And we can't see all of our options when we're in that space, but the brain says, go faster, hurry up, do more, and you'll feel better. And it's not true. None of that's true.
You'll never feel better.
No. Nope.
You'll always let yourself be piled on even more.
Right. Yeah. And I say this too. I'm like, my to-do list is so crazy. I was just talking to my husband about it today. And I said, you know what I came to realize over the weekend? I'm like, I'll always have a to-do list. You can never not have a to-do list.
Yeah.
And I had all this, part of my weekend, I was like, yesterday I said, gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I have so much to do for my business and the house and so much to do. And I realized I'm like, it will never end. It just is not going to end. So I got to let that go and just do what I can do in every moment of every day and prioritize. Yes. But I'm always going to have a to-do list. And I was thinking I could somehow cross everything off my to-do list, but it's like, no, it's impossible.
You could actually just declare task bankruptcy.
That would be a great idea.
And start from scratch. But then it's always coming back, right? It's always, you're always good. Because we're aspirational beings, and we always like taking on new things and changing. Even the laziest among us, we still aspire to do something next.
We're always growing. Yeah. We're always evolving. We're always changing.
Well, that particular area is one we should probably talk about it on another show, because that's one that's close to my heart, and I do a lot of coaching on these things. And so I would, if that's of interest to folks, talking about prioritizing and finding peace, that would be an interesting conversation. Yeah.
Put it on the calendar.
It's on the calendar. All right.
Okay, good. Right. So just a couple more little, 2 quickies. So physically, again, we, when we're in that, oh my God, panic state, right? How can we get ourselves back if my next voice, as I call it, or the adult voice is not available just because I'm in such this unconscious state, I'm trying to get all this stuff done, is we can do some things that are with the body. And I have these on my site on the video section or the media section. You remember the head hold, Pete, where you're putting your palm right on your forehead, and then the other hand goes on that occipital ridge in the back of your head?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
That again brings all the blood to the prefrontal cortex. It just having your hand there is powerful. And it also, there's all the neurovascular points. I learned that also from Donna Eden. Mm-hmm. Then again, the belly breath. These are just tools that we can use. The belly breath, hand on the head, the belly breath, and then to remove the energy buildup, there's a video I have on my site of, I don't know if you remember this, where you're taking your hands and you're taking the energy off the top of your head. Remember that one?
Yeah.
Where you're pulling the energy. That's another Donna Eden technique. I love it. It just clears your mind. So those are quick things that we can do in order to bring ourselves back to a more conscious state. And then the last one I have for people is, it's really helpful if you like the adult chair language and like what we're talking about, to find a friend to do it with you. Because I find very often, when we are in a state where we can't get out of it, again, we feel like we're drowning and nobody is throwing me a life rope, or I'm not throwing myself a life raft, we can call a friend and say, and I do this, I have a few people in my life that know this work, and I'll say, can you be my adult just for a moment?
Yeah, it's like your adult chair accountability partner.
It is. Yeah. It's really great, especially when we're really drowning. It's like we need someone else that's not in it with us. Yeah. But when we're in that adult, if I'm going to volunteer to be that adult for someone else, I can't buy into their drama.
Okay. Because
So
you don't want to be sucked into their
No, so
vortex of fear and pain.
Exactly. And again, this works so great with couples. They love it. Even, especially the men, which I love to hear. Men say, I love this language. Now I feel empowered with my wife. And my wife can come to me and say, because in general, I'm just going to say, many women are the ones that get like hysterical or they're upset or emotional. And what do the husbands do? This is a whole other podcast, so add this to our list too. But men want to fix us. Mm-hmm. We're off emotionally, so men come in on their horse and try and fix us. But when they have this language of the adult chair, the women now can go to their husbands or boyfriends or partners or whomever and say, hey, I need you to be my adult. Are you available to do that now, or can we do it later? But I need to talk through something. Boom. And then that husband or boyfriend or partner can say, yes, I can do it now, or I'll do it whenever. But they know I just need to sit there and keep my mouth shut until I am asked, okay, so may I offer my suggestion now? Or did you just need me to sit here? So many times we just want to feel heard. There's no fixing needed.
Right.
Just listen.
Yeah.
And be present with me. Look at me. Don't be texting. Don't be typing on your laptop.
It's so funny because it's like there's a thing where men, I think generally, and I'm going to say this, I'll speak for myself. I don't like being a warm body, right? I like to have a function. And I naturally, if I don't really stop and process this stuff, I don't see myself as a warm body kind of guy. Like if I'm asked to come into a thing, I want to participate. And what I have to consciously remind myself of, and much of this after our conversations and how I relate to my wife and my children, is I have to shut up and know that I am participating by being a warm body. That is participatory enough. Just by being there, that's my role. And that's really hard to do. That's like fights all my instinct is to just sit and shut up.
I love it. That's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true though, because you're a witness to someone else's pain or just a thought process or something they're going through.
And I am not wired that way.
Huge role. Yeah. I know. So I tell my people, and when I have couples in my sessions, I'm like, you buckle into your adult chair and just listen. This happens all the time where I will say to the other partner, okay, she or he is going to tell you how they're feeling and what's going on. You buckle into your chair and say nothing. In fact, I don't even know that you need to hear what they're saying because you might get triggered. Just let it go. Let it go by you. And they just listen. I do this with mother's daughter, everybody. And then at the end, when I ask the person that was having the cathartic moment, I'll say, now, what do you need from him or her or whomever across from you? And they'll say, they might be crying or they might be, not crying, doesn't matter. But they'll say, oh, I don't know. I feel so good just saying it out loud. And I wasn't fixed. I just was the warm body. They just need to be that warm body, just exactly what you're saying.
Yep. That's it.
So true.
That's the trick. All right.
So true. So anyway, so that's it. That's it for today. So that is truly, these are some great, great tools. These are things I use to get me into my adult chair when I am in that chaotic, crazy, overwhelmed space. It really, really works. And again, just breathing, just holding, all of a sudden saying, hold on, stop. I just need to breathe. Just let me breathe just for one moment. It's like, am I breathing properly? Am I even breathing? As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, you'll forget to breathe. I forget to breathe. That's the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
so there
good
you go.
Stuff.
There you have it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Michelle, as always. Folks, don't forget to head over to iTunes, subscribe, and download the show for free every week. We would love to have you as regular listeners. So thanks so much for your time and attention. And on behalf of Michelle Chalfant, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week right here in the Adult Chair.